I am Chelsea. A few weeks ago, my father, who had been battling illness, passed away. Regret lingers within me as I wish I could have shared with him the joy of meeting his grandchildren. These thoughts escaped my lips, accompanied by a heavy sigh. I got married 5 years ago at the age of 25, and during the ceremony, my father and I made a pact. I promised to inform him first when I got pregnant. Sadly, that promise remained unfulfilled. My only regret about my father centers around this unkept promise. His illness had been discovered a year ago, and since then, I devoted myself to doing everything I could for him. Regular visits to my parents' home and the hospital with my mother became a routine. I increased the frequency of phone calls and video chats, exhaustively exploring every avenue to support him. Despite my efforts, a lingering doubt persists. Could I have done more? As I mull over these thoughts, my mother, sitting beside me, reassures me, "You did well, Chelsea. Your father would be satisfied." Just then, my sister Portia returns, accompanied by the family lawyer. The mid-40s man hands me his business card, introducing himself as Samuel, the attorney. My mother guides Samuel to a seat, and as soon as he settles in, my sister blurts out, "I heard from this lawyer that Dad left quite an inheritance." I quickly clarify, "It's not all for you, Portia." Her expression sours, and we exchange glares. Our strained relationship, exacerbated by my sister's distant attitude since our father's illness was discovered, hangs heavily in the room. I try to address the tension, stating, "I may have said it wrong, worried about him, but you don't have to be so stubborn." She retorts, "I'm not being stubborn. I live in the city. It's not easy to come to the countryside." Our argument reveals deeper issues, and the lawyer intervenes, urging us to calm down. Apologies are exchanged, but the lawyer redirects the focus, stating, "As I mentioned on the phone, I have your father's will." My mother inquires when this occurred, and Samuel responds, "A few weeks before he passed away, he contacted me." The lawyer had visited the hospital, where my father, with his primary physician present, had finalized his will. It had been arranged for the physician to inform the lawyer upon my father's passing. Now, with a white envelope in hand, the lawyer places the will in front of us, confirming, "This is the will, undoubtedly in your father's handwriting." I murmured as I verified the characters on the envelope. My sister Portia appeared somewhat irritable, but she dismissed it, saying, "Never mind, just tell us what's in it." "I'm busy. You know that very well," she added, addressing the lawyer with a wry smile. With that, he opened the envelope, revealing a single sheet of paper. The contents outlined that, aside from the house and land, my father's inheritance included some savings and a storage shed. While we were aware of the house and land, the mention of a storage shed puzzled me. As I contemplated this, my sister, visibly annoyed, interjected, "Wait a minute. You didn't mention the farm." The lawyer acknowledged the oversight and explained, "Yes, the farm your dad used to work on as a hobby." He recounted how, after turning 50, my father decided to close his company in the next town and focus on farming near our home. Despite initial objections from my sister, who opposed the decision during her college years, my father persisted, finding joy in the physical activity of farming. Now, my sister insisted that the farm should be part of the inheritance. The lawyer, reviewing the documents, quickly addressed this concern, revealing that the farm was rented land. My sister expressed disappointment, realizing we didn't own the expansive piece of land as she had thought. The conversation then turned to dividing the inheritance. The lawyer suggested giving the house and land to the wife, my mother, leaving the rest to be divided between my sister and me. The savings and storage shed were up for distribution. My sister eagerly claimed the savings, valuing at about $100,000, declaring triumphantly, "I'll take the cash." However, I objected, emphasizing my position as the oldest daughter. I proposed that she could have the storage shed, questioning its significance. Despite my objections, my sister was adamant about her claim to the cash. The lawyer clarified that the storage shed was a small building next to the phone, approximately 65 square feet, resembling the size of a small bedroom. He presented photos of the shed, revealing its dilapidated exterior and basic contents, consisting mainly of ordinary tools like hoses, scissors, and shovels. The realization dawned that the shed held little monetary value. "I don't want it," my sister grimaced. I painted the photos too. It was all very ordinary. These are sentimental items, but they won't bring in money. As I pondered this, my sister reluctantly agreed, saying, "Fine, I'll take the cash. You can have that dirty shed." However, I found it unfair. "Hold on, that's not fair. You agreed to the vegetable farming. What are you complaining about now?" My sister countered, making it difficult to argue. Still, I couldn't let her take all of Dad's inheritance without a fight. My sister pressed me, asking if we were good. My mother chimed in, saying, "As long as Portia won't complain later, I have no objections." Reluctantly, I nodded, and the division was settled. My sister grinned, and feeling uneasy. I immediately objected, saying, "Well, I'm not satisfied." "Give it up. You're so greedy," my sister retorted. Her words left me speechless, and I couldn't deny that family was more important than money. My sister abruptly ended the conversation, and in the end, my mother got the house and land. My sister got Dad's savings, and all that was left for me was the dirty shed. My sister, laughing loudly, signed a document promising not to complain about the inheritance division. Filled with complaints, I couldn't help but vent to my mother. "Mom, why didn't you help me?" My mother replied, "I did help you. I made sure you got the shed." Unhappy about inheriting the shed, I puffed out my cheeks in response. The next day, armed with the shed key from the lawyer, I headed to the shed near the field, a 10-minute walk from home along a deserted rural road. Finally, reaching the empty field, I opened the dusty shed and began looking around for something sentimental from Dad. Yet, all I found were tools and nothing special. Disheartened, I considered taking what was inside when I noticed something odd. The shed seemed smaller on the inside. Puzzled, I walked around to the back and gasped. There was another door. This second entrance wasn't visible from the inside, creating a mysterious space accessible only from the back. Excitement surged through me as I thought, "This must be Dad's surprise." Dad loved surprises, even on birthdays. Memories flooded back and tearing up. I returned inside, searching for the back door key. After finding 2 hidden keys in the handle of a shovel, I tried one in the door at the back. With a click, it opened, revealing a cramped space with a large safe. I wondered, is this from Dad's company? I recognized the safe. It was the same one I saw in the corner of his office when I was a child. Nostalgic, I hugged the safe. This was a true memory of my father, and I felt fulfilled. This alone made the inheritance worthwhile. However, knowing Dad, this couldn't be the end. There had to be more surprises. There's got to be more surprises, I muttered as I inserted the second key into the safe. With a slightly rusty sound, the safe opened. What? No way. The moment I saw the contents, I was stunned. Inside was an unexpected inheritance. Overwhelmed, I locked the safe and rushed to my mother. After explaining the situation to her, I called my husband, and with his help, we moved the safe from my parents' house. Then it hit me, the contents of the safe were undoubtedly Dad's. However, if it's part of my inheritance, including the shed, I might have to pay inheritance tax. Better get this checked out thoroughly, I thought. The valuable contents of the safe prompted me to consult the lawyer. According to him, for inheritance tax matters, it's better to consult a certified public accountant. So I got a referral to an accountant from a friend and left all the complicated matters to them. The year passed in this way, and just when I thought things had finally settled down, my sister showed up near my home. "What brings you here all of a sudden?" I asked. "Well, I had some business at our parents' house, so I stopped by, yeah, something like that," my sister replied, her behavior appearing strange. No matter how you looked at it, even if my home was close to our parents', it was still a 20-minute drive. We weren't the kind of sisters who would casually visit, especially after the tension of our dad's inheritance. I couldn't shake off my suspicion as I looked at her. My sister, acting a bit nervous, asked, "Can I come in?" "Sure, but what's the matter?" I inquired. "I have something to talk about," my sister said, forcing a smile. Reluctantly, I let her into the house. After serving some coffee, she started to fidget, and then began to speak. "So, did you win the lottery or something?" she asked. "What? No. I didn't," I replied. "Then did your husband get a bonus?" she questioned, puzzled. "I never buy lottery tickets because I'm not interested. My husband, who's a salaried worker, does get a holiday bonus, but it's not that time of year," I explained. Confused, I asked her directly, "Hey, what are you talking about?" Suddenly, my sister got angry. "What are you making fun of me?" "No. What are you talking about?" she snapped. "Money. Money, you have it, don't you? Money." My sister spoke excitedly. It was a story from a few days ago. Living in the city, my sister had run into our aunt by chance, and the woman started the conversation like this. "I know how hard it's been for you since you lost your father. Are you doing okay?" "Yes, well, I visited him many times when he was sick. Thank you. But you must be relieved, right? Getting such a big thank you gift." "Thank you gift?" "Yes, your sister sent me a $500 gift card as a thank you for visiting him." What caught my sister's attention was the gift card. Hearing that I had sent it, she was convinced I had come into some extra money. "You got a windfall, didn't you? Just admit it." My sister interrogated me. "Ah, that's what this is about," I sighed. My sister didn't like my attitude and yelled, "What's with that attitude? Are you mocking me?" "No, it was a thank you gift." "So, where'd you get the money for it?" "That's what I want to know." "From the inheritance, remember?" I replied. "So, I sent thank you gifts to relatives who had helped us," I began, and upon hearing this, my sister frowned. "All you got was that dirty shed," she remarked. "Yes, that's true. But you can't sell that for money." However, there was a safe inside it, and that's where the real inheritance was. A safe? A real inheritance? I carefully explained to her about the watches in the safe, all valuable items collected by my father as a hobby during his lifetime. However, I didn't know their exact value. On the other hand, the remaining savings were about $100,000. Considering he was a business owner who could retire early, that amount seemed small, leading me to think he might have invested a lot in those watches. "If they're valuable, you'll have to pay inheritance tax," my mother had said after seeing the contents of the safe. "What should I do, Mom?" When I asked, my mother thought for a moment and advised, "Things like this always come out. You should declare it properly." "How?" "Well, let's ask that lawyer we spoke to recently." So I consulted the lawyer again, and I was told that if you inherit valuables, the inheritance tax is determined by their value. At that time, I was also told that a certified public accountant could handle it for me. As a result, it was found that the watches alone were worth at least $500,000. With watches this valuable, you'll have to pay inheritance tax. How should I pay it? I asked. The lawyer suggested, how about keeping the ones you're emotionally attached to and selling the rest? Certainly, it didn't make sense to me, who didn't know the value, to hold on to such expensive watches. I'd rather someone who understands their worth have them. With that thought, I sold some of the watches, used the money from the sale to pay the inheritance tax, and sent thank you gifts to the relatives who had helped us. Those thank you gifts were the gift cards my sister was talking about. By the way, what I kept were items like the pocket watch my father often wore. I showed my sister the pocket watch as I told her this story. This one isn't expensive, but it holds the most memories for me. However, my sister frowned upon hearing my story. What? You don't have any left? She questioned. No, there are still some in the safe. Where's the safe? I explained. It's at Mom's. The safe is too big for this house. It's the one Dad used at his company. My sister looked away, seeming deep in thought. I felt uneasy seeing her like this, but right after that, she stood up and said, "I'm leaving. Now that I know where the money came from," and left. Considering how money-minded my sister is, I thought she might demand some of the money from the watch sales. I was relieved she left without making a fuss. However, in my relief, I forgot the unease I had felt earlier. My sister isn't that understanding, and I had forgotten that. I was reminded of this late that night when I got a call from my mother. "Chelsea, it's urgent. Come over right away." "What happened, Mom?" "It's just really bad," my mother said, frantic and unclear. My husband and I rushed to my mother's house, and as we approached, we noticed something strange. The area around my parents' house was lit up in red. "What's going on?" The reason became clear as we got closer. Several police cars were parked outside my parents' house. I navigated through the crowd and called out to my mother. "What happened, Mom?" According to her, it was after 9 p.m., and feeling tired, she had gone to bed already. Soon after, she heard strange noises, sounds like someone searching for something coming from beyond the door. "Oh, it's a burglar," my mother instantly thought. However, she was the only one in the house, feeling helpless. She decided to escape through the window. Looking back, she saw the light of a flashlight moving inside the house. This is definitely a burglar, she was convinced. Running to the neighbor's house, she urgently said, "Help. There's a burglar." Hearing this, the neighbor immediately came out. They too saw the swinging light my mother was pointing at and called the police, thinking it was a burglar. However, it wasn't a burglar at all. It was my sister who had sneaked into the house to rummage through the safe after hearing my story. Neither my mother nor the neighbor had any way of knowing this. Soon, the police arrived, and naturally, my sister was shocked. Realizing she was in trouble, she tried to make a quick escape. Of course, it's her own family home, so there's no need to run. Yet, in her panic, my sister thought she had to escape. In her rush, she bumped into the open door of the safe. Just then, the already unstable safe toppled over, falling right onto her as she tried to flee. So, Portia got trapped under it. Yes, that's what happened. "Is she okay?" I asked. "She was taken to the hospital by ambulance, but she keeps saying her leg hurts." What on earth was she thinking? I was truly dumbfounded. Afterward, my mother and I apologized to the police officers who had come to help, feeling bad for calling so late. I also phoned my sister's husband. "Wait, you're saying Portia broke into her own family home and got injured?" he questioned. "Yes, that's correct." "What is Portia doing? She doesn't even do housework. I'm really sorry about my sister." "That's it. I'm filing for divorce." "Divorce?" Actually, according to my sister's husband, she had racked up a considerable amount of debt. Apparently, she had been spending a lot on brand name items, and he had just found out. They had a huge fight, and in the end, my sister stormed out of the house, saying, "I'll borrow from Mom and pay it back." Turns out she had already used the $100,000 she inherited to pay off her debts. Still short, she came to me to scrounge for more money. Learning about the contents of the safe led to her actions, which in turn led to this whole mess. No wonder her husband was furious. In the end, my sister, who had fractured her leg, was hospitalized. Her husband came to the hospital and started talking about divorce. Naturally, my sister made a scene. "I'm not getting a divorce. Absolutely not." But it was too late. Her husband had brought the divorce papers. Seeing them, she had no choice but to sign. Now she's lying in her hospital bed stunned. There's a part-time job magazine next to her, so she's probably planning to start working part-time to pay off her debts. That would be a relief for me. As for me, I decided to move back to my parents' home after all the commotion. Of course, I'm worried about my mother, but there's another reason. I found out I'm pregnant. My husband and I talked it over and decided to move back home and have my mother help us with the children and childcare. I wish I could have told my father about the pregnancy while he was alive, but I'm sure he would be happy for us. So I'm looking forward to giving birth to a healthy baby.